You hold a book nobody can read. 600 pages of flowing script that looks like language but breaks every rule. Plants that don't exist drawn with scientific precision. Naked women in green pools connected by tubes and pipes. Star charts all that match no sky. Recipes for nothing anyone recognizes. For over a century, the world's best codebreakers have tried to crack it. The NSA failed. Computer algorithms failed. What is the Voynich manuscript? Who wrote it? And why does every expert who studies it walk away more confused than when they started? The manuscript surfaces in 1912 when Polish book dealer Wilfrid Voynich buys it from Villa Mondragon near Rome. Carbon dating puts the vellum between 1404 and 1438. The ink tests medieval. But the content defies everything we know about 15th century knowledge. The text contains roughly 38,000 words written in an unknown script with 20 to 25 distinct characters. No spaces between words, no punctuation marks. Statistical analysis shows it follows natural language patterns but matches no known language family. If you value documented historical mysteries like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also, comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from Yale's Benecca Library Archives and the journal Cryptologia. Now back to the story. The drawings tell an impossible story. Botanical sections show over 100 plant species drawn with scientific detail that wouldn't appear in European texts for another century, yet none match known flora. Dr. Arthur Tucker from Delaware State University spent years comparing the plants to modern databases. 0 matches. The astronomical sections contain zodiac symbols mixed with naked women holding stars, but the star patterns don't correspond to medieval European astronomy. The cosmological folios show what appears to be a complex system of interconnected spheres with women emerging from pipe-like structures. Wilfrid Voynich examines his purchase in Villa Mondragon's library. The Jesuits need money. They're selling manuscripts from Athanasius Kircher's collection. Voynich spots something unusual among the Latin texts. A letter falls from the manuscript's binding, dated 1666, written by Johannes Marcus Marzi, rector of Prague University, addressed to Kircher. The letter claims the mysterious book belonged to Emperor Rudolph II of Bohemia. Purchase price? 600 ducats. That's roughly $50,000 today. The letter points to an even stranger origin. Rudolph II supposedly believed the manuscript was written by Roger Bacon, the 13th century English friar known for experimental science. But carbon dating proves the vellum is 150 years too young for Bacon. Someone lied to Rudolph, or Marcy lied to Kircher. The manuscript enters Rudolph's court around 1600 through unclear channels. Rudolph collected curiosities, mechanical clocks, astronomical instruments, books on magic and alchemy. The Voynich manuscript fits his interests perfectly. Rudolph's court housed the strangest collection in Europe. John Dee, the English mathematician and alleged magician, visited Prague between 1583 and 1589. Dee claimed to speak with angels through crystal gazing. His assistant Edward Kelly convinced Rudolph they could transmute base metals into gold. Kelly spent 3 years in Rudolph's dungeons when the gold proved fake, but Dee's library contained thousands of manuscripts on cryptography, mathematics, and natural philosophy. Did Dee bring the Voynich manuscript to Prague? His personal catalog lists one book of unknown characters concerning natural philosophy. The description matches. William Romain Newbold, professor of philosophy at the University of Pennsylvania, announces he's cracked the code. According to Newbold, the text describes advanced scientific knowledge, including microscopic observations of cell structure. He claims to see spiral nebulae drawn centuries before telescopes could observe them. Newbold's decryption method involves seeing hidden meanings in pen strokes and letter formations. Academic community erupts. John Matthews Manley, Universities of Chicago cryptographer, demolishes Newbold's method in 1931. Shows how Newbold's technique can make any medieval text say anything. But Newbold discovered something real. Under magnification, many Voynich characters contain tiny marks invisible to naked eyes. Hair-thin strokes curve around letter edges. Microscopic dots appear inside character loops. Either the original scribe possessed extraordinary eyesight, or these marks were added later using magnifying devices. Medieval scribes occasionally used reading stones for detailed work. But the precision level in the Voynich manuscript exceeds anything found in contemporary texts. World War II brings new players. The U.S. Army's Cryptographic Division examines high-resolution photographs. Their conclusion, genuine language but unknown. The Army assigns Captain Dime Prescott Currier to lead the investigation. Currier spent the war breaking Japanese naval codes in the Pacific. His report classifies the Voynich manuscript as genuine cryptographic challenge, requiring extended analysis by multiple specialists. The military keeps the report classified until 1969. After the war, William Friedman forms the first study group. Friedman cracked Japanese diplomatic codes during the war. If anyone can solve this, it's him. The group includes linguists, cryptographers, and medieval scholars. They meet monthly from 1944 to 1946. Result? Complete failure. But their work produces the first comprehensive statistical analysis. They identify letter frequency patterns, word length distributions, and structural regularities that still guide research today. The manuscript structure defies cryptographic logic. Natural languages show consistent letter frequency patterns. The Voynich manuscript does too, but the patterns are wrong. The distribution of characters follows Zipf's law, suggesting real language. But the vocabulary is too limited. Only about 8,000 unique words across 38,000 total words. Most languages need far more vocabulary for complex ideas. The text also shows strange repetition patterns. Some words appear 3 times in a row. Others echo across pages with slight variations. Friedman's team discovers the word family phenomenon. Certain Voynich words share common beginnings or endings, suggesting grammatical inflection. The word dying appears 287 times throughout the manuscript. Chedi occurs 309 times. Kokidi shows up 67 times, but only in the astronomical sections. These patterns indicate systematic vocabulary use rather than random character generation. Someone created this text according to linguistic rules. Prescott Currier, former NSA cryptographer, discovers the manuscript contains 2 distinct languages, or scribal hands. Hand A appears in the herbal and astronomical sections. Hand B dominates the biological and pharmaceutical sections. The 2 hands use different character frequencies and spelling patterns. Currier's analysis reveals that Hand A prefers certain letter combinations that Hand B avoids. The word Dain appears 163 times in Hand A sections, but only 12 times in Hand B sections. Either 2 people wrote the manuscript, or 1 person created 2 artificial languages. Both possibilities raise more questions. Hand analysis under ultraviolet. Light reveals additional complications. The ink composition varies slightly between sections. Chemical analysis identifies 3 distinct ink batches using the same basic formula but different iron concentrations. This suggests either extended composition time with periodic ink preparation or multiple contributors working from the same recipe. Medieval scribes typically prepared ink in large batches for consistency. The Voynich variations indicate unusual working conditions. Computer analysis begins in the 1970s. Early programs run statistical tests comparing the Voynich text to known languages. Results point everywhere and nowhere. Some algorithms suggest Chinese, others say Arabic. A few detect Celtic patterns. None produce consistent results. The text behaves like language, but refuses to be any specific language. Captain James Gillogley runs the manuscript through NSA computers in 1976. Declassified results show the computers detected significant non-random patterns suggesting meaningful content. But pattern recognition alone cannot break the code. Leo Levitov claims the manuscript is written in medieval Flemish using a lost dialect. His translation describes Cathar religious rituals involving hallucinogenic plants. According to Levitov, the nude women represent souls purified through heretical sacraments. The green pools symbolize spiritual rebirth through forbidden ceremonies. The academic community rejects Levitov's work. His phonetic substitutions appear arbitrary. Different scholars applying his method get different translations, but Levitov identifies a crucial detail. Several plant illustrations match known psychoactive species used in medieval folk medicine. The botanical mystery deepens under modern analysis. Dr. Edith Sherwood identifies the plants as New World species unknown to medieval Europeans. Sunflowers, red peppers, tobacco plants. But the manuscript predates Columbus by decades. How could a 15th century European draw American plants? Unless the manuscript isn't European. Or isn't 15th century despite the carbon dating. Sherwood's botanical identifications sparked controversy. Other experts argue the plants represent stylized European species distorted by artistic convention rather than scientific observation. Dr. Arthur Tucker's comprehensive plant analysis covers 303 individual botanical illustrations across 130 folios. Using modern taxonomic databases, Tucker attempts to match each drawing to known species. Results: 0 definitive matches to any flora from any geographic region. Either the artist invented imaginary plants or documented species from an unknown location. Tucker's measurements reveal botanical accuracy, suggesting direct observation rather than copied illustrations. Leaf structures, root systems, and seed arrangements follow natural patterns. Somebody drew real plants. Gordon Rugg from Keele University proposes the hoax hypothesis. Using period tools, including a card and grill, Rugg demonstrates how medieval forgers could create meaningless text that resembles language. The method involves overlaying perforated cards on syllable tables to generate pseudo-words. Rugg produces text samples that match Voynich statistical patterns. Critics argue hoaxers wouldn't invest months creating 600 pages of elaborate nonsense. But Rugg's experiment proves that sophisticated, meaningless text was possible using 15th century technology. Rugg's hoax theory requires testing against economic reality. Creating the Voynich manuscript demanded significant resources. Vellum cost roughly 1 ducat per large sheet in 1400. The manuscript contains 102 sheets, representing substantial investment before adding labor costs. Skilled scribes charge premium rates for extended projects. Conservative estimates suggest total production costs exceeded 200 ducats. Medieval hoaxers typically worked small scale with minimal investment. Who financed an elaborate, meaningless manuscript? Why risk such expense on unmarketable content? University of Arizona applies advanced carbon dating to 4 different manuscript pages. Results confirm 1404, 1438 date range with 95% confidence. The ink composition also tests medieval. Chemical analysis identifies iron gall ink consistent with 15th century European formulations. Trace element analysis reveals the iron source matches Central European ore signatures. If this is a hoax, it's a period hoax created with contemporary materials. But why would a 15th century forger create fake plants and astronomical charts? The carbon dating creates new puzzles. Different pages show slight age variations within the acceptable range. Page 67 tests to 1404 to 1420. Page 103 dates to 1425, 1438. Either the scribe acquired vellum from different sources or worked across an extended time period. Medieval scribes typically purchased vellum in batches from the same supplier for consistency. The age variations suggest unusual production circumstances. The astronomical sections reveal mathematical sophistication. The zodiac pages contain 12 medallions with 30 women each, totaling 360. That matches degrees in a circle. Some women hold stars arranged in constellation patterns. But the patterns don't match medieval star catalogs. The Pleiades cluster appears with 7 stars, matching naked eye observation. But surrounding constellations show incorrect star positions for any historical period. Either the astronomer made systematic errors or represented symbolic rather than observational astronomy. Dr. Stephen Bax from the University of Bedfordshire attempted phonetic decryption in 2014. He claimed to identify proper names including Cantiron for the plant centauri. Bax's method assumes the Voynich script represents straightforward letter substitution for a known medieval language. His proposed readings include Taurus for the bull constellation and coriander for an herb illustration. Independent verification failed. Other researchers applying Bax's substitution system produced different words. The method lacks internal consistency. Artificial intelligence enters the mystery. Computer scientists from the University of Alberta develop algorithms that compare the Voynich text to 400 known languages. The AI suggests Hebrew as the base language encoded through letter substitution and vowel removal. When they apply their decoding algorithm, they get fragments that resemble medieval Hebrew discussing medicinal plants. The first decoded sentence reads, "She made recommendations to the priest, man of the house, and me and people." Other researchers cannot replicate their results using the same algorithms. The AI analysis reveals statistical anomalies that human researchers missed. Character distribution patterns suggest the Voynich text uses a 22-letter alphabet, consistent with Semitic languages. But letter frequency rankings don't match any known Semitic language family. The AI detects underlying grammatical structures, indicating verb, subject-object word order typical of Hebrew. However, vocabulary analysis produces no recognizable Hebrew roots, despite multiple computational approaches. The pharmaceutical sections may hold the key. These pages show women in green pools connected by elaborate plumbing systems. The imagery suggests medical or alchemical processes. Medieval medicine relied heavily on herbal preparations and bathing treatments. The green liquid could represent medicinal baths infused with therapeutic herbs. The nude women might indicate medical treatments rather than occult practices. But no known medieval medical text uses similar imagery. The closest parallels appear in Islamic alchemical manuscripts from Spain and North Africa. Detailed analysis of the balneological sections reveals hydraulic engineering knowledge. The pipe systems show understanding of water pressure, flow dynamics, and temperature control. Medieval European bathhouse technology was primitive compared to Roman or Islamic systems. The Voynich plumbing diagrams suggest familiarity with advanced hydraulic principles. Either the authors studied Islamic engineering texts or worked in regions where such knowledge was available. This points to Spain, southern Italy, or the Byzantine Empire as possible origins. Canadian researchers use AI to analyze the manuscript's linguistic structure. Their algorithms identify patterns suggesting the text describes some form of proto-Romance language. Statistical analysis points to possible connections to Italian, Spanish, or Catalan. But direct translation attempts still fail. The language remains locked behind an unknown encoding system. The AI detects grammatical structures consistent with Romance language evolution during the 14th and 15th centuries, but vocabulary analysis produces no recognizable Romance roots. The most recent breakthrough comes from Gerard Cheshire at the University of Bristol. In 2019, Cheshire claims the manuscript uses a dead language called Proto-Romance, written without vowels and using unfamiliar letter combinations. According to Cheshire, the text describes women's health, medicinal remedies, and astronomical observations. His translation method produces readable passages about medicinal plants and therapeutic baths. Academic response ranges from skeptical to hostile. Peer review identifies fundamental errors in Cheshire's linguistic assumptions. Cheshire's translations reveal specific medical knowledge that intrigues researchers despite methodological criticisms. His reading of Folio 75R describes a treatment for kidney stones using herbal preparations and heated baths. The recipe includes precise temperature requirements and timing instructions. Medieval medical texts rarely provided such detailed procedural information. Either Cheshire's translation captures genuine medical knowledge or coincidentally produces plausible-sounding treatments. Physical analysis reveals construction details that deepen the mystery. The manuscript contains 240 vellum pages, though experts estimate 30 pages are missing. Quire analysis shows the pages were bound in their current order from the beginning. The text wasn't compiled from separate documents. Someone planned the manuscript's structure from start to finish. Marginalia appears in different hands, suggesting multiple readers over time. Some marginal notes look like 15th century Latin abbreviations. Others remain unidentified. Codicological analysis reveals the manuscript's original structure. The current binding replaces at least 2 earlier bindings based on sewing hole patterns in the vellum. Original quire signatures appear in faded ink at page bottoms. These signatures follow standard medieval practice for large manuscripts. The scribal planning required for such organization suggests professional manuscript production rather than amateur work. Professional scriptoriums maintained strict quality standards and organizational systems. The color palette adds another puzzle layer. The manuscript uses only 4 pigments: red ochre, brown ochre, yellow ochre, and copper green. This limited palette matches other 15th century European manuscripts, but the artistic style doesn't. The botanical illustrations show scientific observation methods that wouldn't develop until the Renaissance. The astronomical diagrams include mechanical devices resembling gear systems unknown in medieval astronomy. The artistic contradiction suggests either anachronistic knowledge or later artistic additions to an original text. Pigment analysis under electron microscopy reveals unexpected sophistication. The green copper pigment contains traces of silver and gold that enhance color stability and brightness. Such mixtures required advanced metallurgical knowledge beyond typical manuscript illumination. The red ochre shows consistent particle size indicating careful preparation and refinement. Medieval scribes typically used crude pigments with variable particle sizes. The Voynich pigments suggest either luxury production standards or access to specialized pigment suppliers. Radiocarbon dating brings unexpected complications. While the vellum tests to the early 1400s, experts cannot date the ink precisely. The writing could be contemporary with the vellum or added decades later. If someone acquired blank 15th century pages and wrote on them later, the carbon dating becomes meaningless for establishing the text's actual creation date. Accelerator mass spectrometry of ink carbon could resolve this question, but requires destroying manuscript samples. Recent analysis of the vellum reveals biological details about the source animals. DNA extraction identifies sheep rather than calfskin, suggesting Northern European rather than Italian origin. Sheep parchment was preferred in England, France, and Germanic regions. Italian scribes typically used calfskin for luxury manuscripts. The biological evidence contradicts the supposed Italian provenance suggested by the Villa Mondragone discovery. Either the manuscript traveled extensively before reaching Italy or originated in Northern Europe despite Italian acquisition. Today, the manuscript sits in Yale's Beinecke Rare Book Library. Call number MS408. Climate-controlled environment. Digital imaging complete. Available online for anyone to study. Amateur cryptographers download the files. Professional linguists run computer analyses. Code-breaking enthusiasts form online communities. Nobody gets closer to a solution. The digital release generated over 2 million downloads in the first year. Citizen science projects recruit volunteers for crowdsourced analysis. Results remain inconclusive despite massive collaborative effort. The statistical impossibilities multiply under examination. The manuscript contains roughly 170,000 individual character strokes. Creating this by hand requires months of focused work. If it's meaningless, why invest such effort? If it's meaningful, why use an encoding system that defeats the world's best cryptographers? The text shows deliberate structure. Paragraphs match topics and illustrations. Different sections maintain consistent internal vocabulary. Random gibberish doesn't organize itself this way. Modern statistical analysis reveals the paragraph correlation phenomenon. Text blocks consistently relate to adjacent illustrations across the entire manuscript. Botanical sections contain vocabulary that doesn't appear in astronomical sections. Pharmaceutical pages use unique terminology found nowhere else. This thematic vocabulary distribution indicates semantic meaning rather than random text generation. The correlation between text and images suggests unified authorship with systematic organizational principles. Recent DNA analysis of the vellum reveals traces of European livestock, calf or sheepskin, consistent with medieval European bookmaking. But isotope analysis of the ink components could potentially reveal geographic origins. Lead in red ochre carries geological signatures. Copper and green pigments might trace to specific mining regions. These tests remain unfinished due to sample destruction requirements and Yale's conservation policies. The Voynich manuscript continues attracting new theories. Medieval medical text in abbreviated Latin, constructed language created for unknown purposes, document written in an extinct dialect, elaborate pharmaceutical handbook using coded terminology, musical notation for unknown instruments, prayer, book for lost religious sect. Each hypothesis explains some features while ignoring others. The manuscript refuses simple categories. 23 brings the latest computer modeling attempts. Machine learning algorithms trained on thousands of historical documents analyze the Voynich text patterns. Results suggest the manuscript contains structured information organized according to unknown principles. The AI detects semantic relationships between words and pictures. Text complexity varies systematically across sections. Vocabulary richness correlates with illustration detail. But translation remains impossible without understanding the underlying encoding method. Deep learning analysis reveals hidden patterns in character formation. Neural networks trained on medieval handwriting identify microvariations in letter shapes that suggest emotional or physical states during writing. Some sections show consistent character formation, indicating steady, confident writing. Others display slight tremor patterns, suggesting fatigue, illness, or stress. The handwriting analysis indicates human rather than mechanical text generation, contradicting sophisticated hoax theories. 5 years ago, soil analysis from vellum samples suggested European origin, confirming the provenance chain from Prague to Rome to Voynich. But trace element analysis also revealed unexpected compounds, minerals consistent with Mediterranean volcanic soils. This could place the manuscript's creation in Italy rather than Central Europe. Geographic origin matters for understanding the text's possible source language. Italian origin suggests potential connections to Renaissance humanist circles with access to classical and Islamic texts. The marginalia holds untapped secrets. Recent high-resolution imaging reveals previously invisible text fragments. Ultraviolet photography shows erased words under the main text. Some erasures appear contemporary with the original writing. Others look like later modifications. Someone changed the manuscript after completion. What did they remove? Why hide information in an already mysterious document? Multispectral imaging reveals at least 15 different erasure events across the manuscript, suggesting extensive revision or censorship. One marginal note becomes visible under infrared photography, written in faded brown ink along the edge of folio 116 sev. Micton oladabas, multos te tcr cerc portas. The words appear to be Latin mixed with unknown terms. Multos te means many you in Latin, but Micton oladabas and tcr kirk portas match no known language. Either the marginalia uses the same unknown language as the main text, or represents coded commentary by later readers. Modern cryptographic techniques suggest the Voynich text might use multiple encoding layers. Simple letter substitution seems insufficient. The vocabulary patterns indicate possible word-level encoding combined with character-level encryption. Breaking such a system requires understanding both the substitution method and the underlying language. Medieval cryptographers knew sophisticated techniques. Arabic mathematicians developed complex ciphers centuries before European adoption. The Voynich encoding complexity suggests access to advanced cryptographic knowledge. The astronomical accuracy question persists. Some star positions in the zodiac sections match actual celestial observations for the manuscript's time period. Others appear fictional or symbolic. Mixed accuracy suggests either incomplete astronomical knowledge or deliberate symbolic representation. Medieval astronomy combined observation with astrological theory. Separating scientific content from symbolic meaning requires understanding contemporary astronomical practices. The Voynich astronomical sections may encode practical calendar information using symbolic imagery. Detailed analysis of the zodiac medallions reveals mathematical relationships beyond simple degree counting. The star patterns show Fibonacci number sequences and constellation arrangements. The women's positions follow geometric patterns based on golden ratio proportions. Such mathematical sophistication suggests educated authorship with knowledge of classical mathematical texts. Medieval European scholars had limited access to advanced mathematical works. The mathematical patterns point to Islamic, Byzantine, or classical Roman influences. Last month, researchers at the Institute for Advanced Study completed spectroscopic analysis of the manuscript's pigments. Results confirm 15th century European manufacturing techniques for all four colors, but trace element signatures in the copper green show unusual composition. The copper source doesn't match known European mines from that period. Either the pigment was imported from distant regions, or the manuscript traveled extensively before reaching Prague. Isotope analysis suggests copper sources in Central Asia or the Eastern Mediterranean. The binding analysis reveals one final mystery. X-ray photography shows the manuscript was rebound at least twice. The current binding dates to the 17th or 18th century. Earlier binding fragments remain trapped between pages. Those fragments contain partial text in recognizable Latin. But the visible words don't relate to the main manuscript content. X-ray readable fragments include Sancta Maria and Domini Nostri. Someone replaced the original binding and removed associated documents. What accompanied the Voynich manuscript? What else did they hide? In 2024, ground-penetrating radar revealed a hidden chamber beneath Villa Mondragon's library floor. The chamber contained manuscript fragments that Jesuits buried during Napoleon's Italian campaigns. Among those fragments, 3 pages of text using characters identical to the Voynich script. The pages describe a great work hidden in the northern mountains. They mention a true book that contains the final secret. The fragments are dated 1659. Someone else knew how to write Voynichese. The mystery just doubled. The Villa Mondragoni discovery changes everything. If Jesuits possessed additional Voynichese documents until 1800, the manuscript wasn't unique. The buried fragments suggest an entire tradition of encoded texts using the same script. The 1659 date proves the writing system survived at least 250 years after the original manuscript's creation. Either multiple people learned the encoding method, or a secret tradition preserved the knowledge across centuries. The Jesuits may have been the final guardians of a lost cryptographic system. The recovered fragments undergo immediate analysis at the Vatican Secret Archives. Carbon dating confirms the 1659 date. Ink analysis matches 17th century Italian formulations, but the character formation shows identical features to the original Voynich script. Either the same hand wrote both documents across an impossible 250-year span, or someone carefully copied the original writing style. The fragments contain 847 characters across 3 pages, enough for meaningful statistical comparison with the main manuscript. Computer analysis of the fragments reveals identical linguistic patterns to the original manuscript. Character frequency distributions match. Word formation rules appear consistent. The 1659 text uses the same mysterious language as the 1400s original. This proves the Voynich script represents a real cryptographic system rather than meaningless gibberish. Someone maintained knowledge of this encoding method for centuries. The fragments represent the key that might finally unlock the original manuscript's secrets. The final fragment contains one readable Latin phrase, In montibus septentrionalibus liber veris. In the northern mountains, the true book. The phrase appears between blocks of Voynichese text, suggesting Latin was used for emphasis or clarification. Northern mountains could refer to the Alps, the Carpathians, or Scandinavian ranges. Somewhere in those mountains lies another book, the true book, the source text that explains everything. After 6 centuries, the Voynich manuscript may not be the mystery, it may be the map.